إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن نبينا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, brothers and sisters, to our final class in Tafseer of Sorah al-Qasass. This last portion of the Surah revisits some of the themes that were discussed at the beginning. In the beginning of the Surah, we're told about Musa alayhi salam in great detail from the moment that he's born and his upbringing with Fir'aun and so on, and what happens in his early stages of life. And then this end story, it is a contrast to show a similar man that came from a similar background, meaning that he was from the Banu Israel, he interacted with Fir'aun and the people of Fir'aun, but the outcome or the end of this person is very different. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, إِنَّ قَارُونَ كَانَ مِنْ قَوْمِ مُوسَى فَبَغَى عَلَيْهِمْ. So right from the beginning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes the statement that Qarun, this individual, was from the people of Musa alayhi salam. Most of the scholars of Tafseer, they say he was actually the cousin of Musa alayhi salam. And just in that statement, there is a great lesson. It shows that in Islam, what matters is the actions. It is not being related or that your father was a sheikh before you. This man is literally the cousin of Musa alayhi salam, but yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes him and his end in a way that is very different from the end of the pious and the good. So Qarun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that he transgressed against the people of Musa. So Qarun is a very interesting individual because he is from Banu Israel, yet he oppresses them and he makes life difficult for them. And this is not something unique. You will find that often amongst people, that once they feel that they have a foot in the door, so to speak, they will only think about themselves. So Qarun was granted a lot of wealth, a lot of money, and so on. And instead of showing ihsan, goodness to the people that really needed it, his own people, he showed them harshness and he was difficult to deal with. Some of the scholars, they say this transgression was his disbelief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Others, they say this transgression was the way that he used to do business with the Banu Israel, and he used to make things difficult for them when he would buy and sell from them, even though he was from amongst them. وَآتَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْكُنُوزِ مَا إِنَّ مَفَاتِحَهُ لَتَنُوءُ بِالْعُصْبَةِ أُولِي الْقُوَّةِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlights here the treasures, the wealth that he was given. And when Qarun is given all of this, this is a test from Allah. You'll see similar people being given even more than Qarun, because what is being described here is Qarun was given literal wealth, money and horses and so on, whereas someone like Sulaiman alayhi salam, he was given much more. He said, "Oh my Lord, give me a kingdom that is not befitting for anyone after me." So Sulaiman alayhi salam was given great power. And what was the response that Sulaiman alayhi salam gave? When he realized that all of this was a test, he said, هَذَا مِنْ فَضْلِ رَبِّي لِيَبْلُوَنِي أَأَشْكُرُ أَمْ أَكْفُرُ. This is from the bounties of my Lord, to test me, to see whether I am from the grateful ones or the ungrateful ones. So this is the way of a believer, the way a believer speaks. But Qarun speaks in a very different tone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted him so much wealth. The scholars in Tafseer, they say it took 60 donkeys to carry just the keys to his treasure, not the treasure itself, but 60 donkeys to carry the keys to his treasures. So this man was rich beyond belief. And because of that, people would advise him. They would see him boasting and showing off his wealth, and they would say, إِذْ قَالَ لَهُ قَوْمُهُ, his people, the Banu Israel, the believers, they used to say to him, لَا تَفْرَحْ, do not show this arrogance, this boastfulness. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْفَرِحِينَ, verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not love those who do that. When the character of Qarun is such that we see it a lot today. Today with social media and all these things, you see people who have accounts just to show off their own wealth. But if you were to compare their wealth with the wealth of Qarun, the wealth of Qarun was much more. Not only did Qarun have the physical wealth, but he also had influence. When he's transgressing against the Banu Israel, it is because of his ties and his closeness to Fir'aun and those type of people. So the Qarun, he used to show this boastfulness both in action and in speech. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the people said, keep advising him, وَابْتَغِ فِيمَا آتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ, seek from that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, dar al-akhirah. Do not use the blessings to seek this world, rather seek the akhirah. Because if you run after this world, there are so many people who run after this world. And every single person, they got their share of this dunya. But what happened to them? Fir'aun himself, today he is in a museum. You can see along with the gold and the silver and all the wealth that he had, and he has nothing to show for it. Rather, in fact, we're told in the Quran, أَنَّهُ يُعْرَضُونَ عَلَيْهَا غُدُوًّا وَعَشِيًّا, that the people of Fir'aun and Fir'aun himself, they're being presented to the hellfire every morning and every evening. They're being punished every morning and every evening. So this is the state of those who follow the dunya. And then at the same time, they show balance. And this balance is something that we've talked about many times in the khutbah before and in other classes. They say, وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا, and do not forget your portion in this dunya. Meaning Islam has never ever been about forgetting the dunya and focusing on the akhirah, or forgetting the akhirah and focusing on the dunya. It is all about that balance. And another meaning of this, which is part of the reminder, Imam al-Qurtubi rahimahullah, he said, when these people are saying, وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا, if you really think about your nasib, your portion in the hayat al-dunya, what is the only thing that you will take with you? What is the only thing that you will take with you from the hayat al-dunya, apart from your actions, materialistic things? The only thing that goes with you in the grave is your kafan. It's the shrouds. They put the person in the shrouds and then they bury the person. So the Imam was saying that وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا, it is a powerful reminder, not just about the balance that we just spoke about, but it is also a powerful reminder that truly what you will take from this dunya is just a piece of cloth. That's all. Not your shahada, your certificate, not the experience that you had in your work and so on, and your wealth. The only physical thing that you will take with you is the kafan or the cloth, the burial shrouds. And what is interesting is another statement by some of the scholars. They used to say, perhaps a person is laughing, being neglectful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and their kafan, their shrouds have reached the marketplace. You know the shrouds, the way that it is cut, it is usually cut at the time of the person's death. You don't have a storage full of kafan. Usually back in the day especially, they would say a person has died and they would take the umash, the fabric, and they would cut it into the size that it is needed. So sometimes they might keep a few of them nearby. So imagine you're laughing, neglecting the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, And just in the marketplace, your kafan is being made ready and you're unaware. You do not know that you only have a few moments left in life. So this is part of that powerful reminder that the people give. ولا تنس نصيبك من الدنيا وأحسن كما أحسن الله إليك. And this is again a powerful statement. And do good, meaning to others, everyone around you. وأحسن, just do good. كما أحسن الله إليك, in the same way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed you this ihsan by giving you wealth, blessings after blessings, and so on. And this it is a reminder to Qarun and those that follow his footsteps. But it is also a reminder to all of us, whether we are Muslim or non-Muslim, to every single person, the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has shown us so much mercy, so much kindness, time and time again, we are meant to show kindness in return. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu in many parts of the Quran. And in one part of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about Abu Bakr, وَلِيَعْفُوا وَلِيَصْفَحُوا وَلِيَعْفُوا وَلِيَصْفَحُوا. So let them pardon and forgive. أَلَا تُحِبُّونَ أَن يَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. Do you not wish that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives you? So in order to get the mercy of Allah, then we need to be able to show that mercy to others. And the Prophet ﷺ said, الرَّاحِمُونَ يَرْحَمُهُمُ الرَّحْمَنُ, that those who show mercy will be shown mercy by Ar-Rahman, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they remind him and they continue and they say, وَلَا تَبْغِ الْفَسَادَ فِي الْأَرْضِ, and do not cause mischief on the land. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُفْسِدِينَ. What is the response? If a Muslim is reminded, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَ تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and remind, because the reminder benefits the believer. A believer, when he has made a mistake and they're reminded, they will, even if they feel shy, even if they feel embarrassed at that moment, they will feel appreciation and they will thank that person. They'll say, yes, this is true. I fell short, inshallah, I will do better. This is the response of a believer. But the response that Qarun gives is, he says, إِنَّمَا أُوتِيتُهُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ عِنْدِي. The only reason that I've been given all the stuff that you see is because of my own knowledge. And this is exactly what you hear today being repeated. This statement is a statement that people like Qarun have used before Qarun and after Qarun. That they will say, if you tell them, be content with what you have, be happy, be kind, show others kindness, they will say, I've worked hard for this, that I've spent so much hours, so many years. This is what I deserve. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds Qarun in the surah, أَوَلَمْ يَعْلَمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ أَهْلَكَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ مِنَ الْقُرُونِ مَنْ هُوَ أَشَدُّ مِنْهُ قُوَّةً. Does he not realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has destroyed many generations before him, who were more powerful, who had more than him? And this should be a reflection for all of us, that Mahma, regardless of how wealthy a person gets in this world, there's always going to be someone that is more wealthy. Today they talk about Bill Gates and they talk about Jeff Bezos and these people, and they talk about their wealth. 100 years ago, it was Rockefeller and there was these people that had all the wealth. But this is something that only a believer can really reflect on. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا يُسْعَلُ عَنْ ذُنُوبِهِمُ الْمُجْرِمُونَ, that the mujrimun, those who are the criminals, they will not even be asked about their wrongdoing. It is so blatantly obvious. And in other parts of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they themselves will realize it without being questioned. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَاعْتَرَفُوا بِذُنُوبِهِمْ or فَاعْتَرَفُوا بِذَنْبِهِمْ. They recognize and they acknowledge the mistake, the sin that they have committed. So coming back to the story of Qarun, فَخَرَجَ عَلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ فِي زِينَتِهِ. So he enters or he marches out amongst his people فِي زِينَتِهِ, in his prime. He's trying to show off everything that he has. And in some of the narrations, it says that when he marches out like this, he has no less than 70,000 people with him. His personal army that protects him, his servants, his slaves, whatever he needs, he would go out with them. So to show his might, his power, his wealth, and so on. قَالَ الَّذِينَ يُرِيدُونَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. Those who wanted this lowly life, and this is the literal translation. Al-Hayat dunya is the life of this dunya, but the word of dunya, it is something that is lowly. So those who wanted the lowly life, they said, Ya layta lana mithla ma utiya Qarun. Oh, how we wish we had what Qarun had. Innahu ladhu haddin azim. Verily he is someone who has been given a big portion. Does this ring a bell? Have you ever read the comments that people leave on posts where people show off wealth and everyone wants to have what that person has, and they speak about all the materialistic things, the houses, the money, the cars, the women, everything. Every person who lacks in Iman, when they see this, they will be deceived by it. And they will repeat this statement, but you will see the end of Qarun. وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمِ. And those who have been given knowledge. And you will see how knowledge protects a person. Knowledge in Islam, beneficial knowledge, it becomes a protection. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects the person through that knowledge. Some of the scholars, a man said to a sheikh once, he said, فُلَانٌ يَحْفَظُ الْقُرْآنِ. So-and-so has memorized the Quran. The Sheikh said no, but al-Quran yahfazuhu. Rather, it is the Quran that protects him. Because with the knowledge of the Quran, it will prevent you from committing these major mistakes. So those who have knowledge, they speak up. And now they remind the masses. And this is why it is important to always continue with al-amru bil ma'ruf wa nahy 'anil munkar, even if people do not like it. So those with knowledge, they remind the masses, the people. They say, وَيْلَكُمْ, destruction be to you, ثَوَابُ اللَّهِ, the reward from Allah is خَيْرٌ, it is better. لِمَنْ آمَنَ, whoever believes in Allah, وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا, and comes with good deeds, وَلَا يُلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا الصَّابِرُونَ, and the only ones who will receive that are those who are patient. And these are words of importance both to those people and to us, to remind us not to fall into that same mistake. So what was the outcome of Qarun? فَخَسَفْنَا بِهِ وَبِدَارِهِ الْأَرْضِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the khas, and in Islamic context, what the khas means is that literally the earth opens up. It is like a sinkhole, it opens up, and anything that was on top will fall inside. So not only did the earth open up for Qarun, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is specific. He says, فَخَسَفْنَا بِهِ وَبِدَارِهِ الْأَرْضِ. And even his house, the thing that people could see, if he had gone into the ground and left his belongings, then people might be deceived or they might fight over it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed not only Qarun, but his possessions as well. فَمَا كَانَ لَهُ مِنْ فِئَةٍ يَنْصُرُونَهُ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ. And he had no party, no one that could help him against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا كَانَ مِنَ الْمُنْتَصِرِينَ. And he was not from those that were victorious or helped. وَأَصْبَحَ الَّذِينَ تَمَنَّوْا بِالْأَمْسِ وَأَصْبَحَ الَّذِينَ تَمَنَّوْا مَكَانَهُ بِالْأَمْسِ. And those people who just yesterday, literally just بالأمس, yesterday they were saying, we wish we had what Qarun has. Now they wake up. يَقُولُونَ وَيْكَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ وَيَقْدِرُ. And they are the ones now speaking because they've seen it with their own eyes. And the scholars, they say that The clever person is the one who takes lesson in other people's mistakes, and people don't make him into a lesson. So you want to be able to learn from this story and not fall into the mistake of these people. But now they wake up and they say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the rizq to whomever He wants from His slaves. He makes it big, يَبْسُطُهُ, He increases it, makes it vast, وَيَقْدِرُ, or He makes it narrow. لولا أن من الله علينا لخسف بنا. If it hadn't been for the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we would have been there along with Qarun. We would have been destroyed along with Qarun. So the fact that they were saved and Qarun was the one that was destroyed, that is another favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لولا أن الله علينا لخسف بنا وكأنه لا يفلح الكافرون. And they repeat that statement that the kuffar, those who disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will never be successful. The success that they get is limited to this world, and even with that success comes a lot of sorrow and anguish. تلك الدار الآخرة نجعلها للذين لا يريدون علوا في الأرض ولا فسادا. Such is the house or the abode in the Akhirah. We have made it for those that do not want supremeness, or they do not want to be above others in this world, in this on the land, ولا فسادا, and they do not cause any corruption. Who is this in reference to? It is reference to Fir'aun, that has been mentioned in this surah. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about Fir'aun, we are told, إِنَّ فِرْعَوْنَ لَعَالٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ, that Fir'aun was a tyrant on the land. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that Akhirah, there is no, the Akhirah Jannah is not for these type of people. وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, and the outcome, the final victory will always be for the muttaqin. So you'll see the struggle of Musa alayhi salam. In a previous class, we mentioned that Musa alayhi salam made dua against Fir'aun, and it took 40 years for the dua to take effect. So even though it took so long, Musa alayhi salam knew, as we should know, إِنَّ الْعَاقِبَةَ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, that the final victory will always be for the muttaqun, those who have taqwa of Allah. And then the last part of the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us of doing good deeds. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, مَنْ جَاءَ بِالْحَسَنَةِ فَلَهُ خَيْرٌ مِنْهَا. Whoever does a good deed, a good action, he will get in return خَيْرٌ مِنْهَا, even better than that. In some of the verses it says بِعَشْرِ أَمْثَالِهَا, that every good deed it is multiplied by 10. And some good deeds are only known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the reward for it. So this again is highlighting the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَنْ جَاءَ بِالسَّيِّئَةِ فَلَا يُجْزَى الَّذِينَ عَمِلُوا السَّيِّئَاتِ إِلَّا مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Even that is a mercy from Allah, meaning that the one who does evil, they will not be punished, or they will not be compensated except for the evil that they did. In other words, the good is multiplied and the evil is not multiplied. And this again is from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّ الَّذِي فَرَضَ عَلَيْكَ الْقُرْآنَ لَرَادُّكَ إِلَى مَعَادٍ. So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking directly to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This surah, if you remember from the very beginning, it is revealed during a very difficult time of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is reminding the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the one that made the Quran, sent the Quran upon you, instructed you to follow it, to teach it. He is the same Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that will bring you back. There's different understandings. Some of the scholars, they say this means in the Akhirah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is affirming that He will bring the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam back after death. Many of the scholars, they say this is in reference to what will happen, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam will end up leaving Makkah and he will go to Medina for the Hijrah, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring him back to Makkah, meaning that Makkah will become Muslim. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows this. قُلْ رَبِّي أَعْلَمُ مَنْ جَاءَ بِالْهُدَى وَمَنْ هُوَ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. And this is speaking to both the Prophet ﷺ and the Quraysh that are around him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Prophet ﷺ, say, my Lord, Allah knows who it is that comes with the guidance and who it is that is completely misguided. وَمَا كُنْتَ تَرْجُو أَنْ يُلْقَى إِلَيْكَ الْكِتَابُ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً مِنْ رَبِّكَ. This verse is very powerful. It means that the translation is وَمَا كُنْتَ تَرْجُو, and you were not the one to wish or to wait for or to hope for أَنْ يُلْقَى إِلَيْكَ الْكِتَابُ, for a book to be given to you. Meaning that the fact that the Prophet ﷺ became the Prophet, it is not something that even crossed his mind. He was not someone that sat down and thought, oh, I wish I became a Prophet and so on. The Prophet ﷺ didn't even know how to read or write. The fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose him amongst the people, it is a great mercy. And in other parts in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَانَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكَ كَبِيرًا. وَكَانَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكَ كَبِيرًا. Reminding the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that verily the bounty, the mercy, the blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon you, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, are great. So all this, him becoming a prophet and receiving the Quran, it is nothing but إِلَّا رَحْمَةً مِنْ رَبِّكَ. Where have you heard this before in the Quran? We have heard it in Surah Al-Anbiya, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he describes the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a mercy to all of creation, and he is a mercy because of the message he is passing on from Allah. فَلَا تَكُونَنَّ ظَهِيرًا لِلْكَافِرِينَ. So do not become the supporter of those who are disbelieving. Meaning, do not help them in their disbelief, and do not help them, do not stand silent, do not be silent when it comes to speaking up against this evil. Because you will see someone like Haman, that is mentioned in other parts of the Quran. Haman is not to be confused with Qarun. Haman is the right-hand man of Fir'aun, and he was very close to him. But when you look at it throughout the Quran, Haman is a very passive individual. He doesn't make any statements, he doesn't make any commands. Fir'aun is the one that tells him, do this, do that, and so on. And he fulfills all the commands of Fir'aun. So what happens? Haman is mentioned alongside Fir'aun. And in many hadith we're told that on Yawm al-Qiyamah, Haman will be resurrected alongside Fir'aun. Why? Because he helped him in evil. So this is a reminder for all of us that not only should we not become evil ourselves, but we should not be a tool, an instrument for evil people to use. وَلَا يَصُدُّنَّكَ عَنْ آيَاتِ اللَّهِ بَعْدَ إِذْ أُنْزِلَتْ إِلَيْكَ. And do not let anything stop you or prevent you from the ayat of Allah after it has been revealed to you. وَادْعُ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ, and call towards your Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in other parts of the Quran, it is explained with more detail. وَادْعُ إِلَىٰ سَبِيلِ رَبِّكَ بِالْحِكْمَةِ وَالْمَوْعِظَةِ الْحَسَنَةِ وَجَادِلْهُم بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. So here it just says, وَادْعُ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ, call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to your Lord. So this is the beauty of the Quran, the way that you have parts that explain other parts. وَلَا تَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ, and do not be from amongst the mushrikeen. Because if a person falls into shirk, then لَيَحْبَطَنَّ عَمَلُهُ, then all of your good deeds will be in vain, as is mentioned in other parts of the Quran. And finally, the last verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, ends this whole surah about the dangers of shirk and reaffirming Tawheed, which is the core message throughout the whole Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Prophet and everyone that is listening, وَلَا تَدْعُ مَعَ اللَّهِ إِلَهًا آخَرَ, and do not call upon any other God besides Allah. This whole surah was about Musa alayhi salam and Fir'aun. And Fir'aun was the one who said to the people around him, مَا عَلِمْتُ لَكُمْ مِنْ إِلَٰهٍ غَيْرِي, I don't know for you any other God but myself. This is the arrogance that he reached. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the last verse is reminding us not to be Fir'aun. And Allah Azza wa Jalla says, La ilaha illa hu. This is the truth, that there is no God worthy of worship but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are many things that people call aliha, call gods. They have the idols, the statues before. Today people worship ideas, people worship money, people worship many different things. But at the end of the day, the truth has always been La ilaha illallah. Or as it is put here, La ilaha illahu. Kullu shay'in halikun illa wajha. And this shows the connection between that statement and La ilaha illahu. It means Kullu shay'in halikun, everything will perish, illa wajha, except the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whenever we come across any attributes that belongs to Allah, the way that the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah has always done is, we leave it the way that it is. So we affirm what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has affirmed without asking the howness. So here it mentions specifically, illa wajha, except the face of Allah. A person might come and say, how does this face look like? And does it have two eyes? Does it have a nose? And as Muslims following the Sunnah, we say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned His face, and that is the way that we leave it. Lahul hukmu, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala belongs the command, the judgment, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one that has the right to judge in the truest sense. It is not meant, this is important to highlight because there was some misunderstanding, to put it lightly, in the early stages of Islam after the death of the Prophet ﷺ. Some people would go around and they would shout and they would chant and they would say, In al-hukmu illa lillah, in al-hukmu illa lillah, that only Allah has the right to judge. No human being can judge. But that is not what we're told throughout the Quran. We find many instances where, as we covered in the past, Dawood alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the right to judge. And in the story, they said, فَحْكُمْ بَيْنَنَا, so judge between us. So in the Quran itself, it mentions other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala judging. So the whole hukmu, it means the ultimate, the final decision. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always has that. And وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ, and to Him you return. You find many surahs ending in this way, وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. It might sound like something insignificant, but if you think about it, all of these actions are linked back to the belief that you will stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala one day. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in other surahs in the Quran, ألا يظن أولئك أنهم مبعوثون ليوم عظيم يوم يقوم الناس لرب العالمين. Do these people not think that there will come a time where they will be brought back to life and they will come standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So with that, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, alhamdulillah alladhi bi ni'matihi tatimmu as-salihat. We have finished the tafsir of this surah. And inshallah we will stop here. If anyone has any questions, now is the time to ask. And also, if anyone has any suggestions for future chapters in the Quran or any other topics that you may wish for us to cover, please do so.